Hi there, I am Scott Lowe with Actual Tech Media, and we're here live from ZertoCON 2019 in Nashville, where I'm joined by four fine gentlemen from Zerto. First of all, to my left, starting from the whatever direction it is, however you're watching,
Yeah.
we have Avi Riachel. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
CIO for Zerto. We have Coley Burke, VP Americas Sales
Hello, Scott.
with Zerto. Rob Strechay, who is the Senior Vice President of Product. And last but not least, we have Jeff Smith, Field CTO. Thank you
Nice to
all
meet you.
for joining me today for this panel discussion.
Thanks for having us.
So there's stuff happening in the world. We have CIOs have challenges. There's security, there's data protection, there's disaster recovery, and then we have resilience. But let's start with some of the CIO challenges and how they pertain to what Zerto's doing. What do you see as the top CIO? Let's start with you. Obviously, because you are a CIO. What are some of the top challenges CIOs are facing in 2020 and beyond?
So I'll talk about three challenges: digital transformation, cloud, and security. Most organizations are going through some sort of form of digital transformation. For each organization, they need to define what does it mean for them. Is it the way they address the market, the way they interact with their customer, engage their employees, run their operations? And it's usually the CIO is the one who is tasked from taking out IT from a back office support role to be a business enabler and lead this journey for the organization. As we look below the hood for digital transformation, it never exists without a cloud journey. And everybody understands today that we are talking about hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, and the CIO is tasked with creating the cloud strategy, deciding which workloads fit into the cloud and where into the cloud, and how do you mobilize the workloads from on-premise into the clouds and between the different layers. And last but not least, security. As organizations become more and more digital, they rely on their IT infrastructure much more, and the risks and implications of an ID disruptions are much more severe. So from one end, we've got much more security attacks, and they are much more sophisticated. And with the growing importance of security risks, CIOs have to address not only how do they protect the organization, but assuming something eventually will happen, do they have the ability to recover fast and without losing a significant amount of data?
And what thoughts do the rest of you have around this topic? I mean, you all talk to customers in some way, shape, or form. When you talk to CIOs, what are some of the things that they're saying, this is really hard?
I think when we talk to CIOs about as they're going through this transformation driven on the top of digital transformation, it's achieving the outcome in a timely manner with less resource and delivering on the customer experience along the way. That is the big challenge as you go through this. It's difficult. There's a lot of mixed infrastructure complications to doing it. A lot of times it might be skill set shortage, right? Do they have the right skills to truly transform their organization internally? The technology is always there. It really comes down to the skill set, the culture of the company. We look a lot, are the business and IT aligned? Are they aligned? And if they're aligned, typically we see pretty good success on the outcome of transformation. If they're not aligned, then it tends to slow down.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think it's, I look at it a little bit differently because I'm talking to them to understand how do we make our product better and address some of those concerns. And I think we see it that when I'm talking with the CIOs, we see that they're really looking for a single, simple, scalable platform that brings it all together, that allows them to address those security and those data resiliency questions that they have. Because people can't have outages in their applications. I mean, as United Airlines was on the stage this morning talking about, and the fact that if Zeeves, our CEO's app for United doesn't work, he doesn't get on the plane. I mean, that's the reality of today, is that it is a 24/7, everything has to be up, and I think that's a big piece of what we try to build into the product is how do we keep it simple, how do we keep it scalable to address some of, again, the people aspects where you just can't find people who know everything about cloud. So how do you bring the elements of cloud, disaster recovery, and backup all together in a single scalable platform that addresses what is needed by those customers? And that's what we're thinking about as we talk to them.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, from a CIO perspective, they've really raised their bar from as just being IT as a business unit as being we are at the boardrooms where IT is really our business. No matter what industry you go through, whether it's financial, automotive, manufacturing, healthcare, all of them now, IT and the CIO is part of that business and their board. And it's how does IT drive my business and continually move it because our customers are expect from any business standpoint to have all of that information readily available for them to do the whatever business they're in. So from a CIO perspective, it's really how am I taking IT and really moving that to the business levers to drive my business forward in this digital age that we see.
One of the topics we've heard a lot about in the last few years is this idea of simplicity in infrastructure and things like that. And I don't think it's driven by people not being smart enough to manage their infrastructure. So I think it's by people being done with managing these super complex environments, and they want to be able to collapse. I mean, think about hyperconvergence, for example. They want to be able to collapse some of these silos, make things simpler, so they can focus more on business outcomes rather than technology inputs. At least that's what I wanted to do when I was a CIO. I really wanted to keep the tech as sort of back of the room and really focus on business outcomes. But one of the other things that's helping simplify a lot of lives is this whole idea of IT resilience. And that's something Zerto is really pushing hard on. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm really passionate about this conversation and where we fit. IT resilience, it's really a requirement anymore. We talk a lot about digital transformation. We all mentioned it. I mentioned customer experience, but due to the customer expectations these days and the way it's gone from kind of IT-centric to customer-centric and around how we're dealing with customers, if you don't have IT resilience, you're not able to meet those customer expectations. You're not able to have the data available in a data decision-driven world. Data is the king. It's the currency that we all deal in, and how that data serves your business applications, where you place it, how you retain it, how do you protect it, all wraps into this IT resilience concept, because legacy ways of protecting data does not necessarily equate to customer experience or innovation. So I love talking about IT resilience because it really begins to bring in that convergence of DR and backup along with all of the cloud and business workload mobility, in addition to how you potentially mitigate a cyber threat event. So, holistically from a platform standpoint, Zerto is serving IT resilience because we check all of those boxes. We deliver a better experience for IT, which in turn leads to more efficient IT, better customer experience, and ultimately we help the C-levels achieve the outcomes that really drive their business and allow them to innovate. So we're certainly here to be a market leader in IT resilience. It's a critical area for us, and I think right now we're well ahead of the game when it comes to truly generating interest around IT resilience.
Rob, have you heard of this IT resilience concept?
I think I may have heard it once or twice.
I thought you might have. What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, I think it's really where, again, I'd been on the end user side a very long time ago and had to deal with, hey, how do you bring things back? How do you bring, if there's a disaster or there's a security event, how do you bring things back? And it was not holistic. And I think taking more holistic approach, especially today, where you have cloud more into this, you have geographic regions that you really need to cover because things happen everywhere now, and it's not okay to be down for 48, 72 hours. I think that being resilient is way more than saying I'm going to bring back 900 tapes and go to backup. That just really doesn't cut it. You have to have the data protection from being able to replicate, backup, and do your migrations to, from, and between different clouds. And I think that flexibility is key too.
Your point about not being able to, when early on in my IT career, we could say, we're going to bring the system down for a couple hours. Nobody batted on it. It was an inconvenience, but nobody really cared. Now it's like, it's world ending.
Yes.
And business ending in some cases to be down for that kind of time.
Absolutely.
What about Avi? What are your thoughts on IT resilience? And probably as you probably have to live it as well in your role as a CIO.
Yeah, exactly. I think like we just said, downtime is not an option anymore. If in the past we talked about probably some productivity loss, today we're talking about revenue leakage. We're talking about customer who may have gone elsewhere and will not return. We're talking about brand reputation that can take a severe hit if something happens. So this has really become a board level issue. And I think every organization needs to make sure they are resilient, because in today's complex cyber and security environment, something will probably happen someday, and you have to be ready.
Yeah, I love IT resilience from the standpoint, being a technologist and looking at it from a technology standpoint. It's always how can I change the dynamic of how IT has been run in the past to make it more effective for companies from a technology standpoint. So when you look at IT resilience as a verb, it's really taking those things that we've had siloed from a hardware resilient standpoint for the last 20 years and dynamically changing those in the software world to make them more of a Zerto resilience within an organization where we go from just being mission critical to also business critical to make their entire business resilient to anything that happens out there. And so by changing that dynamic and moving away from things like disaster recovery, business continuity, long-term retention, all of those things are older technology, conversational, what I'll call explanations of how they're set, and really IT resilience is really morphing all of those into one and really taking it into the future from a hardware resilient world to a software defined world and moving that into the application world. So IT resilience from a technology standpoint is really the evolution where we've gone from in the past and really moving that into software. So
One
that's
of
how I
the
look at
things
it.
that I appreciate about Zerto's IT resilience story is that when you think about traditional data protection, disaster recovery, as you all know, there's a replatforming that happens in certain times. And replatforming is expensive, time-consuming, and fraught with risk. And it adds a lot of complexity to the equation. You've taken all that out by keeping it all in a single platform. I mean, overall, a single platform that just lives on. I think that's pretty powerful and something people should be considering.
And that absolutely resonates when we talk to the C-levels, because they look at the cost, the time, the resource to do the remediation, weighed against the outcome, and they're like, wow, that's complex.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we can come in and we understand the initiative is, I need to get this from here to here, and we can come in and say, okay, we can do it in a less time. I talked to a customer today who had a 12-month timeline to deliver a extensive DR project. With Zerto, they did it in 9 months. Right?
That's great.
And they did it with less people. So that's meaningful to a C-level when you can say, I improved your timeline by 3 months and I did it with less people. And by the way, I'm meeting your SLAs. So those are the things for us. We get into that resilience side. Certainly the people transformation comes back into IT resilience, because now we're giving these people that are focused on the historical maintain environment to now they're focused on business value, and they become the success manager of the business. Again, IT and business aligned, focusing on new model, new market, new opportunity, ultimately leading with better customer outcomes. So.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great way to look at it. I love that. It looks like you had something you wanted to.
No, I think Coley and I and an entire team here, we really focus on what the customers are looking to do and achieve. I think to exactly what you said, we're bringing it together in that transformation, be it from going from VMware to Azure, VMware to AWS, or even VMware to Hyper-V or vice versa, helping those customers re-platform underneath the hood so that they don't have to have those skill sets. So they don't have to understand what does it mean to use a scale set in Azure. We go and make that easy for them and help them achieve those SLAs that they're really looking for.
Very good. And our last thing is, when we think about Zerto's roadmap, what do you think are this is going to be a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think are the game-changing things that are on that roadmap that you can talk about publicly?
Yeah.
No pressure.
So no pressure.
We're all listening.
Yes, exactly. So just amongst us, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody's watching. So really, I think a lot of what we're doing with VMware, and we'll be introducing some discussions about how we're getting closer, and that partnership is really expanding. As we've talked about a little bit, we're joined their VAIO, their IO filtering program, so that we can enable some of their customers that use specific things like Secure Boot to have a better experience with Zerto. We're also doing more with people like Azure and AWS, and increasing our utilization of their APIs underneath the hood and growing closer, even doing helping them inspect design for some of those APIs. So we've seen a real turn where hybrid cloud is becoming the norm, and that we're really at the center of that. And we can see the roadmap is really driven by what customers are asking for, and what they want is hybrid cloud. And I think also continuing down the path for long-term retention and helping people do that in new ways with our partners, and being able to go to those purpose-built backup appliances or secondary storage and do that in new and innovative ways into the future is really going to help change the economics of doing backup, not just the fact that more or less getting rid of backup, and it becomes just an afterthought. Oh yes, I got to keep it for a year, but that's more my compliance regulatory side versus, and my audit type side versus, hey, that's really what I'm going to go back to.
So for the rest of the team, what you've been told of the roadmap, what makes you look at it and go, yeah, that's the ticket?
Well, when you talk to customers, and that goes into the roadmap, right? And everyone talks about the cloud, whatever nebulous definition they define
No
their
pun
cloud
intended.
as, right?
Yeah.
It really breaks down into three things for customers. They're either cloud curious. What is that going to mean to me? They have a specific edict of a certain percentage to go there, or they're a cloud first kind of mentality. And so when you look at those kind of trends within the marketplace, from our roadmap perspective, we go along all three of those lines to help them do all of it. If you're cloud curious, we can help you be curious. If you have a certain percentage that needs to go there, well, let's figure out the business requirement and technical requirements, and then figure out which is the best target to get there. And if you have a cloud first environment, how do we take this and move it there? And Zerto fits all of that. And from a roadmap perspective, Rob's done a great job of aligning those customer requirements in those three, what I'll call phases of their cloud journeys, and really moving that towards our roadmap and how to do that.
Yeah, and I'll echo on that. I mean, you look at the three pillars for Zerto: continuous DR backup, workload mobility, and multi and hybrid cloud. Rob and Shlomi and teams have done a really good job. I mean, those are three very distinct kind of pillars and use cases. They all have value. We can come into a conversation where it's more about cloud than it is DR initially, but then we bring in the concept of, well, let's talk IT resilience and the platform. And the complexity that Rob and team have to deal with is we have to add features and innovation to all three of those pillars. And I'm pretty, I'm pretty excited about what Rob's not only doing in 7.0, 7.5, 8.0, but where we're starting to look at this longer range vision to how we wrap, again, back to a holistic platform of the features, capabilities we bring in to continue to just make that solidified to the point where we become the platform that people use to just do all data protection. Again, protect, retain, place data. We're going to be the leader in that, and I think they've done a great job of getting us there.
Good job, Rob.
Nice work.
I'm going to start to blush here.
Well, one of the things I keep hearing from people is that it continues to be easy to use. And that's a testament to your team, because you're doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and it's harder when you have to make it easy, make it look easy. So nice job.
Thank you.
And what about you? Like, when you think about the roadmap, what's exciting to you?
I think, like Coley said, all parts are exciting. We're in a different phase of the journey in each one of the parts, but of course the cloud is very exciting, and like everyone, we are in the middle of our journey and looking to do more DR. We are very mature, but still every time we reinvent additional things, and in backup we're just starting, and I think it's very exciting to see how we can converge those two use cases and make things even simpler for ourselves and for our customers.
So before we wrap up, what is one question? What's something people might not know about Zerto that they really should know?
It's a real good question.
Yeah, I'd say that we're a company that has over 7,000 customers, over 350 cloud providers or MSPs in our program. Basically all of the ones in Gartner's Magic Quadrant, and every single one of the one in the Forrester Wave for DR as a service. We're the quiet company that under promises and over delivers, and we really like to support our customers, and we really partner with our customers. And I think that from that customer first culture is something that a lot of people don't see it until they become a customer. And I think it's one of the proudest parts that I have is the team is really focused on that, bringing the right solution at the right time.
The funnest thing from a technology standpoint, we've all been in business a long time, is when you go see a client and they walk in there and they're like, your stuff just works. It's like
that's pretty gratifying.
The greatest feeling in the world when you go into a customer meeting and they say, your stuff just works. What else can we do? Right?
I would say, I think the question I would answer is, what do we want customers to know about Zerto?
Yeah.
We have a lot of great customers here at ZertoCON. They're very passionate about Zerto. They're very cult-like in their use. And most of the customers here recognize that we're really good from a heritage of BCDR. It's what we're known for. It's what we have always been. And that's the foundation and core of the solution. But it's the stuff we do beyond DR, right? The things we add, the capabilities we add that ultimately make an organization become more efficient, meet their needs faster, accelerate transformation. That for me is what I want customers to know and partners to know is we go well beyond just DR, right? We do so much more. It is a platform that is multiple capabilities that solve real problems and help accelerate transformation.
Avi, Coley, Rob, Jeff, thank you all for joining me for this panel discussion.
Thank you,
Thank you
Scott.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.